Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and while I am quite a bit late getting to this, I do want to share some news on the legendary item revamp that is coming soon to the Lord of the Rings Online. And all of this, I do want to point out, comes in the form of a leak from a developer forum post on the alpha preview program, which for people unfamiliar, that is also known as the Palantir preview program. In LOTRO's alpha, or the Palantir alpha server, that is closed, and people actually have to sign a non-disclosure agreement where they can not only share just alpha information that comes out in that, but they also can't even share that they are in alpha. They are alpha testers. So basically it's very hush-hush and closed off, which is a topic I will actually address at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But back on point. This leak is of course not verified 100% as being real, but based on comments from LOTRO officials, it seems all but confirmed that it is a real post, and it has actually been circulating for a few weeks now since I'm so late getting to it. But as a reminder, this is alpha, which of course means things can and probably will change, but I still think it's beneficial to look ahead and just be aware of how things may be changing in the future. So now that we have all that extra info out of the way, what I want to do in this video is just overview what the current iteration of the LI Revamp looks like and just share some of my opinions on it as well. I will also point out I don't plan to go very much so in depth, but if you are interested in that, more of a deep dive, please do let me know in the comments. But let's go ahead and begin, and the leak shows some general goals of what they want to address. So the first thing is a lack of proper scaling after level 100, which is a big issue with the imbued LI system, where basically if you don't actually invest your time into your LI and grinding it out, especially like Starlight Crystals, your character becomes very, very weak, which is not a good thing, and you can run into issues with that, especially after level 100, so hopefully this will address that, the revamp that is. And then the next thing you want to address is the fact that both non-imbued LIs and imbued LIs, both of those exist. They just want one single LI system that everybody will use from level 50 and beyond, which sounds great to me. And then the third thing they want to address is how much players really fall behind, as we kind of just talked about after level 100, but how much you fall behind with their LIs without that grinding. And basically the fact that you can't just progress on your LI with normal leveling. And that I honestly think is one of the biggest issues with the current LI system, so I'll be very happy when that is actually addressed. Next up, they also want to fix the lack of flexibility with the current LIs, and right now it is just really difficult to develop new builds and adjust to new meta choices with your legendary item and legacies and the such. So they want to address that and have the new system be more flexible, especially if you do want to change that stuff out as classes get updated and different things, just balance changes, all that sort of stuff happens. Okay, and then there's one final goal, which is to eliminate the issue of weapon swapping. So weapon swapping is this huge topic that I honestly have thought about doing a video on for almost a full year now. Basically, when I came back to YouTube, this was something I kept wanting to make a video on, but it's just such an annoying topic to me that I never got around to it, because basically instead of being motivated to make a video because it's an exciting issue to talk about, it's just an annoying one because there's so many different aspects, I guess, of weapon swapping. So hopefully this does eliminate any issues of weapon swapping. That would be great to see. But let's go ahead and set that aside and move on. And as far as the list goes in general, just the features that they want to address, I think it is a great list to start out. The post that was leaked also has a few comments on the new system being much more simple, which I think would actually be one of the most beneficial things, just simplifying the LI system. And for us players, I really hope it does work out that way. Also, with the update, they do want it to be easier to just do different builds for your character for the different specs that you can do. They also want it to be easier to do upgrades on alts, and even easier to catch up with your LI, which that actually addresses a key lack of catch-up mechanics issue that there is going on with LOTRO and LOTRO's endgame, especially with LI. So that will be nice to see from my perspective, because it's something that's always annoyed me about the game, the lack of catch-up mechanics. But anyway, that completes the general goals and ideas behind the LI revamp, which I think is probably the most important part for us players to know at this phase of development, just the general things going on. So as the revamp does continue in the private alpha and eventually to the public beta phase, there is no doubt that SSG will be given tons of feedback on the new system, so all the details that we will be discussing momentarily they are likely going to go through some changes, and I actually certainly hope so with some of the little details, but we'll set that aside for now. So on the note of feedback, I do want to point out that I also think this is why feedback from all the people that play the game is so important, so that the revamp can be changed for the even better before it is fully launched, and why I think this alpha leak is actually a good thing for the community, which I will be talking about in a few moments. But before that, I do want to broadly cover what the new LI system will look like based on the alpha leak, and I do want to point out, for me personally, the best way to think about the new system based on this post is to basically ignore every aspect of the current LI system. And when we get into the details of the new system, they will use words like legacies, runes, relics, and all that stuff that we are familiar with, that terminology we have with the current system, but they're basically brand new, totally different things for the most part that are unrelated to like old legacies and relics, with those especially. So I will say they did point out the terminology is like a work in progress, so they might actually have new names for these things when it is fully implemented, and I hope they do that just to create more distance from the old system. So first of all, with the LIs in general, they are going to become socketable weapons and items that you can acquire starting at level 50, kind of like how it is now. But the LIs themselves will have mainly cosmetic differences between all the different ones you get, and what really matters with your LI, they say, is the items you put into them is what matters. Now I will point out, just being a little bit nitpicky with the wording that was used in this post, they said mainly cosmetic differences between different LIs. That's a little bit concerning and doesn't really explain much on what really falls outside of this mainly cosmetic, unless that is just a poor choice of words for that in this post. But setting that aside for now, let's go ahead and talk about the LI and its base item level. So the base item level will affect things like DPS and healing per second and things like that. So to increase the base item level of your LI, you'll need to reforge it. And to reforge your LI, this comes either at certain character level ranges, it sounds like, or with content updates. And it also sounds like reforging will cost gold to reforge to start, and that sounds a little bit odd to me, honestly. So reforging gives your LI sort of base level to start at, but again, what really matters is slotting things in and leveling this slotted stuff in your LI. So putting the stuff in the LIs is in the form of enhancement slots, as they call them, and these are described as being like essences, which can take legacy and relic items, as they are called right now. So the number of slots available here is based on the LI item level, so as you could guess, as you get higher LI item level, you probably have more slots open. Also, legacies and relics that you put into these slots, they provide various stats and class related boosts, kind of like relics and legacies do now, but they will have a completely different look. And the details here are actually sound quite a bit complex to me, but essentially there are different types of relics and legacies, and they provide different types of boosts. Again, the number of these you can put into your LI depends on the legendary item level. Also, as a reminder, these enhancements are items themselves, kind of like essences, for example. They can be acquired, it's described a few different ways in the post, but basically anything you do in the game, crafting, instances, barter, and all that sort of stuff. Now, all these different sources can provide different types and different power levels of these enhancements as well. Also, with the relics and legacies, they will have their own levels, but then they can be leveled through the enhancement runes. These sound like a new form of scrolls of empowerment and starlight crystals essentially, but they are supposed to be way more common than those, it sounds like. And to make the system a little bit more complex, they currently have different enhancement rune levels and rarities that you can get. And the basic function of these, it sounds like, is how high level these enhancement runes raise the item level of relics and legacies. So basically a way to boost your stuff that boosts your LI. But that overall is just the gist of how the alpha post describes the new LI system. To me, it sounds pretty decent overall is how I would explain my thoughts. But without actually playing with the system with like an in-game GUI, it's kind of hard to judge all the details, to be honest, but it is actually these little details that I summarized here that concern me the most, to be honest. So knowing how poorly things have been implemented in LOTRO's past, it kind of holds me back from having much hope overall on how all this stuff is going to go when it does come time for the revamp to be released. And also, one concern is it sounds a bit convoluted to me, and I'm not really sure that it sounds all that much simpler than the current imbued LI system we have, which obviously goes against one of their earlier goals that I mentioned. But anyway, setting that aside, there is one more key feature of the system to go over, and that is the new legendary reward track. This is where all of your LI item XP will go to, and that will go to advancing this new reward track. So this reward track functions kind of like season or battle passes, or even just other reward tracks in other games for people who do play games that are maybe a bit more modern than LOTRO especially. But basically, as you level through this new reward track, you get to select various LI rewards. And this track will run over a period of time. They mentioned like a couple months before resetting with a new set of rewards, and the plan is to have this reset at like the same time as content releases, which will also happen. These content releases, that is, those will happen to have new basic reforging to boost your base item level of your LI. So this part of the revamp actually sounds really exciting to me, and I think it has a lot of potential to reward you, the player, for running through the content of the game, kind of unlike the current LI system and other systems of character progression especially. But yeah, that is it for what the LI revamp is looking like in alpha based on this leaked post. Do let me know what you all think in the comments on that, but overall I will say I find the revamp to be exciting. And I think it is a much needed thing for the game, but there still is some concern with it right now, which the state of it right now is in alpha, which means there is plenty of time for things to change, especially these little details that I keep talking about, but not actually going into every little single one in this video. But anyway, that is the great benefit of having an alpha, which of course comes before beta, which comes before the full release. It essentially gives the developers, which is SSG in this case, more time to adjust to player feedback to implement a system that the actual players of the game like the most. And I will say there is also this sort of running joke in the LOTRO community that I'm sure at least a few of you are familiar with, that basically says that beta is like alpha and the full release of things is like beta, because there are many bugs and sometimes there are just things the community doesn't like with new things as they get released and they need adjusting, and it just feels like when things are added to the game that it's in like beta, not really ready for a full release. And I actually have an example of this, and this is how I felt with missions. So with the missions, the beta did feel like an alpha. It felt like less than half of the mission system was actually implemented. And then the full release of the War of Three Peaks mini expansion, where missions were first introduced, that actually felt like what a beta version should have to me. It wasn't until months later that they made adjustments and missions finally felt like they were in a releasable state, actually felt like they fit into the game. So I of course don't know what went on from the development side of missions and how the private alpha of them went, but from a normal player perspective, as in my perspective, the way they went just makes me think perhaps more alpha feedback could have been very helpful to the implementation of the mission system again. And that idea is basically why I believe this alpha leak is beneficial for the LOTRO community, and I think is a good example of why I think alpha and LOTRO should at least be a little bit more open. This is an idea I actually had for a while before this leak even came out, so I may explore the topic in like more thorough detail in a future video, but for this topic on the LI revamp and the alpha leak with it, I think Standing Stone Games now has additional feedback, which is much earlier than they would have gotten from an open beta from like a larger, broader audience than they have with the closed alpha. And again, having this feedback this much earlier in the developmental stage of the system that they otherwise would not have gotten, I think can be beneficial for the system to be changed more so for what players like. I will point out though that on the official forums, any talks of the leak were seemingly squished like right away, but there were some good discussions that I have seen on third-party sites, social media, and even just between players who had just seen the leaked post. So while I do see some potential concerns though from their viewpoint, Standing Stone Games viewpoint that is, on like player reactions to little details and the such and not actually being able to say play around with the things in like an in-game GUI, I still think it is overall a good thing for us to have this alpha leak even from SSG's perspective maybe. But I personally would love to see more openness like this in the future. And not necessarily in the form of like more leaks like that somebody should just be leaking everything in alpha. I think more official public openness directly from Standing Stone Games about the alpha stages of major things coming into LOTRO in the future would be great. With the LI revamp, I honestly think the community would really appreciate a preview post of at least the overview and goals of the new LI system, even if they didn't get the nitty-gritty details. I think this could serve as a nice early teaser, especially where we honestly have not had much going on like news-wise with the game recently, but it could also just give the opportunity again for player feedback from a broader and larger portion of the audience. So with that note on feedback, on what you think of alpha in general and if it should be more open like this or not, so let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, that is all I have for this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something useful about the legendary item revamp that will be coming sometime around-ish Gundabad, it sounds like. And if you did enjoy this, please consider liking and subscribing for more, commenting your thoughts, or becoming a channel member to support the content, and thanks for watching everyone.